Growing up in Seattle, I learned early that being different meant being wrong. My older brother Kyle was 33, athletic, outgoing, working in tech sales like a proper Seattle professional. My sister Lauren was 31, married with 2 kids, living the suburban dream my parents constantly praised. And then there was me, Marcus, 29 years old and gay in a family that pretended to be accepting while making it clear I was a disappointment. "We love Marcus," Mom would say carefully at family gatherings. "We just wish he'd settle down. Find someone. Be more stable." What she meant was be straight. Be normal. Be someone they could brag about. Our family's modest wealth came from my mother's rental property investments. Mom had started buying properties in the early 1990s when Seattle real estate was still affordable. Her first duplex in 1993. 2 more properties by 1998. By 2010 she owned 6. By 2018 she owned 9 rental properties scattered across Seattle, Tacoma, and Everett. Nothing fancy. Mostly older homes and small apartment buildings in working-class neighborhoods that gentrified around them. By 2018, those 9 properties were worth approximately $5.4 million, generating about $19,000 monthly in rental income. Kyle and Lauren always assumed they'd inherit everything. I was never part of that conversation. "Obviously we'll split Mom's estate when the time comes," Lauren would say at holiday dinners. "Kyle and me, we're the responsible ones." Kyle was 33, making $120,000 in tech sales, and spending $150,000 annually. Expensive Ballard condo, leased Tesla, constant international vacations he couldn't afford. Lauren was 31, a stay-at-home mom whose husband made $70,000. They lived in a house they could barely afford in Bellevue, constantly stressed about money while maintaining the image of suburban success. My parents adored both of them. I was 29, worked as a software quality assurance engineer for a gaming company, and lived quietly in a small apartment in Capitol Hill. I made $81,000 a year, drove a practical Mazda, wore thrift store clothes, and lived openly as a gay man, which my family accepted in the way people accept things they wish weren't true. "Marcus works in gaming," Dad would say dismissively when people asked. Not with pride. Just with the implication that I hadn't achieved real success like Kyle or settled into real life like Lauren. My relationship with my mother was complicated. She never said she disapproved of my sexuality. She just made thousands of small comments that made it clear I'd failed to give her the life she wanted for me. "Are you seeing anyone?" she'd ask at every family gathering. "No, Mom." "Well, you're still young. Maybe you'll meet someone nice. Settle down." The subtext was always there. Maybe you'll change. Maybe you'll be normal. Maybe you'll stop being such a disappointment. But in early 2018 something shifted. Mom was diagnosed with early-stage breast cancer. Treatable but scary. And suddenly she started calling me more often. "Marcus, can you come over on Wednesdays? I have chemo on Tuesdays and I'm usually tired the next day. I could use the company." Kyle was too busy with work. Lauren was overwhelmed with her kids. So I went. Every Wednesday for 18 months, from February 2018 through August 2019, I sat with my mother during her recovery days. We didn't talk about my sexuality. We didn't talk about my disappointing career. We just talked about her life, her fears, her regrets, her property investments, her concerns about the future. "Marcus," she said one Wednesday in July 2019, "Kyle has been helping me manage the rental properties for the past 2 years. He says he's optimizing revenue streams. But I'm seeing less income than I used to. Can you look at the numbers?" Quietly. I don't want to accuse him of anything, but something feels off. "Mom, I do software testing, not financial analysis." "You find bugs, don't you? You find things that aren't working right? That's all I'm asking. Please." What I found over the next 2 months made me sick with betrayal and rage. Kyle had been systematically stealing from Mom's rental properties for 3 years. Not mistakes. Not aggressive business tactics. Deliberate, calculated theft. It started when Kyle convinced Mom to let him professionalize the property management in 2016. He created an LLC called Pacific Northwest Property Management and convinced Mom to pay him 15% of collected rent. Much higher than the standard 8 to 10%. But that was just the beginning. Kyle submitted invoices for property maintenance, repairs, and upgrades through various LLCs he'd created. The work was either never done, wildly overpriced, or performed by discount contractors for a fraction of the build amount. Roof replacement on the Tacoma duplex. Build $53,000, actual cost $27,000. Difference, $26,000 to Kyle's accounts. Foundation repairs on the Everett property. Build $41,000, never done. I verified with city permit records. No foundation work had been permitted or inspected. Entire amount to Kyle. Siding replacement on the Seattle triplex. Build $67,000 for all 3 units. Only 1 unit was done, costing $19,000. Difference of $48,000 to Kyle. Then there were the rent discrepancies. Kyle collected market rate rent from tenants but reported lower amounts to Mom, pocketing the difference. I verified by contacting tenants. They confirmed they'd been paying significantly more than Kyle reported. Missing security deposits totaling $38,000 over 3 years. And perhaps most brazen, Kyle had convinced Mom that 2 properties needed extensive renovations and should remain vacant. For 7 months, Mom received 0 income from these properties. But I found the tenants. They'd been living there the entire time, paying rent directly to Kyle's LLC. By September 2019, I documented $380,000 in theft over 3 years. I sat with Mom in her living room with printed evidence spread across the coffee table. Bank statements. Tenant interviews. Contractor invoices proving work never happened. City permit records showing no improvements were made. Your son has been stealing from you, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Kyle has stolen $380,000 over 3 years. Mom looked at the evidence for a long time. Her hands shook. From the chemo or the shock, I couldn't tell. Does your father know? She finally asked. I don't know. But Kyle's been telling everyone he's managing the family portfolio and learning the business. Dad's proud of him for it. Mom was quiet for several minutes. Then she said something I never expected. I'm going to deed all 9 properties to you, Marcus. Right now. Before I die. They'll be yours and Kyle will never touch them again. Mom, that will destroy the family. The family is already broken, sweetheart. Kyle is a thief. Lauren stands by him because she benefits from his image. Your father. She paused. Your father has spent your whole life making you feel like you're not enough. Like being who you are is somehow wrong. But you're the one who showed up. Every Wednesday. You're the one who told me the truth. You're the only one I trust. On September 27, 2019, we sat in an attorney's office. Mom signed 9 quitclaim deeds transferring all 9 rental properties to me. The deeds were filed with King, Pierce, and Snohomish counties. By the end of the week, I legally own 9 properties worth approximately $5.4 million. Don't tell anyone yet, Mom said. Let's see what they do. Let's see if Kyle confesses. Let's see how long they keep planning to split my estate without questioning whether I might have made other arrangements. Mom, why are you doing this? You've spent my whole life making me feel like you weren't what I wanted? She took my hand. I was wrong, Marcus. I spent years wishing you were different when I should have been grateful you were honest. You're the only one who showed up when I was sick. You're the only one who told me the truth when you found theft. You're the only one who deserves this. What Mom didn't know was that I was already building beyond the properties. My software QA career was advancing steadily. By 2020, I had been promoted to senior QA engineer. My salary jumped to $97,000. By 2021, I was contracting on the side for indie game studios, adding another $35,000 annually. The 9 properties generated $19,000 monthly, $228,000 annually after expenses. I hired a professional property management company that was honest and competent. Every repair was real. Every dollar was accounted for. I lived modestly. Same Capitol Hill apartment. Same Mazda. Same quiet life with my boyfriend Trevor, whom my family had met exactly twice in 3 years. But I was investing aggressively. By November 2024, my net worth was approximately $6.7 million. The 9 properties had appreciated to $6.2 million. My investment accounts and contracting income added another $500,000. My family knew nothing. Mom died peacefully on October 28, 2024. The cancer had returned and spread. I was with her at the end, holding her hand. Marcus, don't let them make you feel small anymore, she whispered. You're worth more than all of them combined. Stand up for yourself. Promise me. I promise, Mom. The funeral was large. Mom had been involved in local business organizations for decades. Kyle gave an emotional speech about the woman who taught me about real estate and building wealth. I stood in the back with Trevor and said nothing. 2 days after the funeral, Kyle texted, "Family meeting, Dad's house, Thanksgiving Day, 3 p.m. Estate matters. Be there." I showed up exactly on time. Dad's house in Magnolia was full. Dad looking stern and organized. Kyle in an expensive suit projecting success. Lauren with her husband Brad, both looking expectant. My Aunt Carol and Uncle Mike. 2 cousins. No one had saved a seat for me or Trevor. We stood near the doorway. Kyle started without preamble. "We're here to discuss Mom's estate. Specifically her rental property portfolio. 9 properties across the greater Seattle area. Current combined value, approximately $5.4 million. Dad nodded approvingly. "Your mother built something significant." "Lauren and I have been discussing the best approach," Kyle continued. "Given market conditions and our respective situations, we believe the smartest move is to sell all 9 properties and split the proceeds." "Split 3 ways?" someone asked. Kyle glanced at me dismissively. "No. Lauren and I will split it. Marcus abandoned the family years ago. He barely visited Mom. He showed no interest in the properties. He doesn't get a share." Lauren nodded agreement. "That's fair. Kyle and I were actually present in Mom's life." I almost laughed at that. Kyle visited maybe once a month. Lauren came for major holidays. I'd been there every Wednesday for 18 months. Dad spoke up. "I agree. Marcus made his choices. He chose his lifestyle over family. He doesn't deserve a share of what your mother built." The room fell silent, everyone waiting for me to object, to argue, to fight for inclusion. Dad, I just smiled. "Okay," I said simply. Kyle looked confused by my easy acceptance. "Okay. Yeah. If that's what you've decided." I took Trevor's hand. "We're going to head out. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone." I walked toward the door. "Wait, that's it." Lauren called after me. "You're not going to fight this?" I turned back. "Fight for what? You've made your decision. Enjoy your sale." Trevor and I left. As we drove away, he looked at me. "You okay?" "I'm perfect," I said, pulling out my phone. I had 3 missed calls from a Seattle number I recognized. My real estate attorney, Michelle Park. I called her back. "Marcus, thank God. Your brother just contacted me. He says he's representing your mother's estate and wants to list all 9 rental properties for sale. He's asking for access to property documents and tenant information." "What did you tell him?" "I told him I'd need authorization from the property owner. He said he is the owner as executor of the estate." I told him that wasn't accurate and I'd be in touch. "Marcus, he's also contacted 3 other real estate agents trying to get listings. File a cease and desist immediately. Send copies to all agents he's contacted. Make it clear that any attempt to sell, lease, or in any way transact business involving these properties without my explicit written permission will result in immediate legal action." "Done. Do you want to pursue anything else?" "Yes. Contact David Kim at Financial Forensics Northwest. Tell him I'm ready to move forward with the full investigation and criminal referral we discussed. I want a complete forensic accounting report on all financial irregularities from 2016 through 2019, with specific focus on the $380,000 in documented theft. I'll call him immediately. And Michelle? I want the cease and desist to be very clear about one thing. These properties were transferred to me in September 2019. They have not been part of my mother's estate for over 5 years. Anyone attempting to claim otherwise or to transact business involving them is attempting to steal property they don't own." "Understood. I'll have everything filed within the hour." Trevor was staring at me. "You've owned the properties for 5 years?" "Since September 2019. Mom transferred them when I showed her Kyle was stealing from her." "And you never told your family?" "Mom asked me not to. She wanted to see what they'd do. She wanted to see if Kyle would confess. If anyone would question their assumptions." I smiled. "Looks like we have our answer." The next 48 hours were chaos that unfolded exactly as I'd anticipated. Hour 6. Kyle received the cease and desist via email and certified mail. He called me 14 times. I didn't answer. Hour 12. Lauren called, then Dad, then Kyle again. I blocked all their numbers. Hour 18. Kyle contacted the property management company I'd hired, claiming he was the owner. They informed him they only took instructions from Marcus Morrison, the legal owner of record. Hour 24. Kyle went to one of the properties and tried to enter with his old key. The locks had been changed years ago. A tenant called police about someone trying to break in. Kyle was detained and questioned. Hour 36. Dad showed up at my apartment. Trevor, who's 6'3" and works in security, answered the door and very politely explained I wasn't available. Hour 42. Kyle contacted a real estate agent and tried to forge documents showing he had authority to sell the properties. The agent, who'd received Michelle's cease and desist, reported it to the police. Hour 48. My phone rang from Lauren's number. I'd blocked her, but she was calling from her husband's phone. I answered. Hello. Marcus. Lauren was screaming. What the hell have you done? Kyle just got arrested. The police are saying he tried to forge property documents. They're talking about fraud charges. And they're saying you own Mom's properties? That's impossible. It's not impossible. It's a fact. Mom transferred all 9 properties to me in September 2019. That's a lie. Mom wouldn't. She was going to split everything between Kyle and me. She was going to. Until I showed her that Kyle had stolen $380,000 from her over 3 years. Silence. That's insane, Lauren finally said, but her voice had lost its certainty. Kyle was managing the properties. He wouldn't. He did. Fake maintenance invoices. Phantom renovations. Unreported rental income. Missing security deposits. Completely fabricated vacancies while he collected rent from tenants living in supposedly empty properties. $380,000 over 3 years. You're making this up. I'm not. And in about 3 hours, Kyle is going to be formally charged not just with attempted fraud for trying to sell property he doesn't own, but with elder financial abuse for the original theft. The prosecutor has my full documentation. Lauren's voice turned desperate. Marcus, please. This is family. We can work this out. Work what out? Kyle tried to sell properties I've owned for 5 years. Properties Mom transferred to me because Kyle was stealing from her. Properties you and Dad just spent Thanksgiving announcing you'd split between yourselves while excluding me for abandoning the family. We didn't know you owned them. You didn't ask. You didn't question. You just assumed that the gay son who abandoned the family didn't deserve anything. You assumed Kyle and you were the responsible ones who'd inherit everything. I heard Dad's voice in the background. Let me talk to him. Dad got on the phone. Marcus, I don't know what lies Kyle told you, but... Lies? I have bank statements showing deposits to Kyle's accounts matching the stolen amounts. Tenant statements proving they paid more than Kyle reported. Contractor invoices proving work was never done. City permit records showing no renovations occurred. I have 3 years of documented evidence. Even if that's true. It's not if, Dad. It's fact. Certified by a forensic accountant. Reviewed by the police. About to be prosecuted by the King County Prosecutor's Office. Silence. And you know what the really interesting part is? I continued. Mom, I showed her the evidence in September 2019. That's why she transferred everything to me. Because I was the son who actually showed up when she was sick. I was the one who told her the truth. I was the one she could trust. You manipulated a sick woman. I sat with her every Wednesday for 18 months during and after her chemo. Every single week. Where were you, Dad? Where was Kyle? Where was Lauren? You were all too busy. Dad said nothing. I showed Mom the evidence of Kyle's theft and asked what she wanted to do. She chose to deed everything to me. She had 5 years to change her mind. 5 years to transfer the properties back if she thought I'd manipulated her. He never did. Because she knew I was telling the truth and Kyle was stealing. This is going to destroy the family, Dad said weakly. The family was destroyed the moment you told me I'd abandoned you for being who I am. The moment you made it clear my entire life that I was a disappointment for being gay. The moment Kyle started stealing and you praised him for managing the portfolio. The family has been broken for years, Dad. I'm just the only one who stopped pretending. Someone else got on the phone. Kyle. He must have made bail. Marcus, I can explain the financial discrepancies. Explain $380,000 in theft? This should be good. I was making investments with that money. I was going to pay it back with interest. You were stealing. You created fake companies. You submitted fraudulent invoices. You lied about vacancies while collecting rent. You stole security deposits. For 3 years. That's not investment, Kyle. That's systematic theft. I needed the money. For your Tesla lease? Your expensive condo? Your international vacations? You stole from your dying mother to fund a lifestyle you couldn't afford. Silence. And then, I continued, today you tried to sell 9 properties worth $6.2 million that I've owned for 5 years. You contacted real estate agents. You tried to forge documents. You attempted to break into one of the properties. You tried to commit fraud on a massive scale. I thought they were moms. You thought wrong. And even if they were moms, you don't get to sell property just because you're the oldest son. That's not how estates work. That's not how anything works. Kyle's voice turned desperate. Marcus, please. I'll lose everything. I'll go to prison. Please don't do this. I'm not doing this. You did this. 3 years of theft. Attempted fraud. Breaking and entering. All documented. All witnessed. All prosecutable. We're brothers. We're not brothers. Brothers show up when their mother is sick. Brothers don't steal. Brothers don't try to exclude their siblings from inheritances. Brothers don't spend a lifetime making someone feel worthless for being who they are. I paused. You're just someone I used to know who happens to share my DNA. That's all. Dad got back on the phone. Marcus, surely we can reach some arrangement. What do you want? What do I want? I want the properties I already own and have owned for 5 years. I want Kyle prosecuted for the crimes he committed. I want acknowledgement that I wasn't the one who abandoned this family. You all abandoned me years ago. That's not fair. Isn't it? I'm gay, Dad. I've been openly gay since I was 22. 7 years. In that time, how many times did you ask about my life? About my boyfriend? About anything that mattered to me? How many times did you introduce Trevor as my partner versus just Marcus's friend? Dad said nothing. You spent 7 years making it clear I was a disappointment. That who I am wasn't good enough. That I'd never measure up to Kyle and Lauren. And then at Mom's funeral, you declared I'd abandoned the family and didn't deserve to inherit anything. You thought the gay son didn't matter. That being straight and married meant more than being honest and present. You thought wrong. I heard crying in the background. Lauren. Marcus, I have kids, Lauren said, taking the phone. They need their college funds. Brad and I are struggling. We were counting on this inheritance. You were counting on stealing property from me, I corrected. Property I've owned for 5 years. Property Mom gave me because I earned her trust while Kyle was robbing her. Please, Marcus. My kids. Your kids have parents who can work and provide for them. Just like Trevor and I work and provide for ourselves. You're not entitled to my property because you have children. Mom would have wanted. Mom did want. She wanted me to have the properties. That's why she deeded them to me. 5 years ago. She had 5 years to change her mind. He never did. Her wishes were clear. I hung up. Trevor was staring at me. You okay? He asked. I'm perfect. For the first time in years I feel perfect. Over the next weeks the consequences cascaded. Kyle was formally charged with attempted fraud and elder financial abuse. Total charges covered the $380,000 in documented theft plus the attempted sale of properties he knew or should have known he didn't own. His attorney tried to negotiate. My attorney Michelle Park's response. Mr. Morrison committed systematic theft against an elderly cancer patient, then attempted to defraud her youngest son of millions of dollars in property. There will be no negotiation. Kyle's expensive Ballard condo was foreclosed when he couldn't make payments without his income from the stolen money. His Tesla was repossessed. His tech sales job fired him. Companies don't like employing people charged with major financial crimes. 6 months later, Kyle pleaded guilty to avoid trial. He received 5 years in prison with possibility of parole after 2.5. He's currently serving his sentence at Washington State Penitentiary. Lauren and Brad's financial situation deteriorated without the expected inheritance. They had to sell their Bellevue house and move to a modest apartment in Kent. Dad tried to contact me once more, 3 months after everything went down. He showed up at my office. Security called me. There's a Donald Morrison in the lobby asking for you. Tell him I'm not available and he's not welcome here. 2 months ago I received a letter from Dad. Marcus, I've had time to think about everything. You were right. I spent years making you feel like you weren't enough because you didn't fit what I wanted. I'm sorry. I know you'll probably never forgive me, but I needed to say it. Dad, I kept the letter. I didn't respond. An apology doesn't erase 29 years of subtle rejection. It doesn't undo being excluded from your own mother's estate distribution. It doesn't fix a lifetime of being made to feel wrong for being yourself. It's been 8 months since that Thanksgiving confrontation. I'm 30 years old now. The 9 rental properties are thriving. Under professional management, they now generate $21,000 monthly, $252,000 annually. The portfolio is worth $6.5 million. My software QA career has advanced to principal quality engineer. My salary is $118,000 plus stock options. My contracting work adds another $45,000 annually. My net worth is approximately $7.3 million. Trevor and I bought a beautiful house in Fremont with a view of Lake Union. We got married last month in a small ceremony with friends. No family invited. We travel extensively. We just returned from a month in Portugal. We live exactly the life we choose. I donated $100,000 to the Trevor Project in my mother's name. The plaque reads, Eleanor Morrison, she learned to see value she almost missed, chose truth over comfort, and ultimately chose love over expectation. Because that's what Mom did. She spent years wishing I was different, but when it mattered, when she was sick and scared and vulnerable, she chose to see who I actually was. And she decided that honesty and presence mattered more than being straight or flashy or whatever she'd always thought she wanted. People sometimes ask if I feel guilty about Kyle being in prison. If I regret not sharing the properties with Lauren. If I wish I'd handled things differently with Dad. I don't. Kyle isn't in prison because of me. He's there because he stole $380,000 from his dying mother and then tried to steal millions more from me. Lauren didn't lose an inheritance. She lost property that was never hers, that she assumed would be hers while actively excluding me from the family. Dad didn't lose a son. He spent 29 years making it clear I was a disappointment, and he's now experiencing the consequences of that choice. I spent years believing I was the problem, that being gay made me less valuable, that being quiet and honest instead of flashy and charismatic meant I was wrong somehow. Mom's final gift wasn't just 9 properties worth millions. It was the validation that I wasn't the problem, that showing up matters more than showing off, that honesty is worth more than image, that being yourself, even when your family wishes you were someone else, is the only way to live with integrity. Last week, I started a foundation providing housing assistance to LGBTQ+ youth experiencing family rejection. Every young person we help, I think of all those years I felt like I didn't belong in my own family. Every safe bed we provide, I honor Mom's choice to ultimately see me as I am. Kyle saw properties as a source of income to steal. Lauren saw them as an inheritance she deserved without earning. Dad saw them as irrelevant to the son he'd already dismissed. Mom, eventually, saw them as a way to make things right with the son she'd almost lost to her own expectations. And I see them as proof that being yourself, even when it's hard, even when your family makes you feel wrong, even when you're excluded and dismissed, being yourself is always the right choice. Because the people who matter will eventually see you. And the property you build, the life you build, the integrity you build, the honesty you build, that's yours. No matter what anyone else thinks you deserve. Mom finally saw me. He chose me. He trusted me. That's worth more than any inheritance. And I'll never forget it.